Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's movie vlog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today I've got two stories that I would like to talk about. The first of which has a lot to do in relation with the videos that I've been doing on the channel lately. Obviously, we all know Tenet has now been pushed back to the point where it is no longer on a release schedule at all, and many other films are starting to follow suit, and I would not be surprised if other major releases like Wonder Woman 84, Mulan, etc. also begin to follow in the same capacity, because now you have the movie theaters, as I said was likely going to happen, now also seemingly to be affected by this as well. AMC was supposed to have opened 450 of their theaters at the end of July in just a couple weeks, rather really just in a week. And now it has been announced that they are also delaying their reopening till about mid-August to late August. So not even AMC really at this point is giving a firm date or committing to a date on when they plan to reopen. And as I said, it's basically going to be this game of back and forth until one of them decides to hold, because movie theaters really can't survive unless you have brand new movies to bring people back to the theaters. And theaters themselves also need to be opened in order for studios to feel comfortable enough to put their movies out there, because they obviously want to make money and get a return on their investment. So just reading through this one, as we see from Deadline, just because Warner Brothers took Christopher Nolan's Tenet temporarily off the release schedule doesn't mean that the number one theater chain isn't going to reopen. AMC announced this morning that it's planning to reopen its multiplexes beginning mid to late August instead of previously announced date of July 30th. So yes, you're right, they're still planning to open, but they've now pushed it back by 2 to 4 weeks, and we've seen this game now happen several times. So yeah, they might be planning to reopen, but what happens if more and more movies and studios decide to start pushing their films back? Does that mean AMC does the same thing, or do they just bite the bullet and decide to reopen, see what happens, have to close theaters because they can't afford it, and then all of a sudden studios decide to start releasing, and we find ourselves in a giant cluster? The chain didn't go into details in its announcement this morning about which 450 U.S. theaters would be reopening and where. The chain was originally planning a phased weekend-by-weekend reopening approach. The release specified that a third of all AMCs in Europe and the Middle East are already open and operating normally. Warner Brothers announced on Monday that it will not be rolling Tenet out in a typical everywhere global day and date fashion. The Nolan thriller will likely go first overseas to Asian markets where everything is open, and then release stateside in those states where it's safe to reopen. Theaters in New York, Jersey, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina are among those states that have not been given the proper approval to reopen any movie theaters at this point in time. The new timing reflects currently expected release dates for much anticipated blockbusters like Warner Brothers' Tenet, Disney's Mulan, as well as release dates for several other new movies coming to AMC's big screens, read the statement from the Kansas-based circuit. To date, Disney has not announced yet that Mulan would be shifting, though, as I said, it really would not surprise me if they do. It is a little bit later in August, so they've got a little bit more time to play around with, but as you all know, it's a domino effect. If you move one of your releases, it's there for a reason, because you're trying to give all of your other films you have in release or going to be in release a bit of room. And so if they move Mulan, then it's obviously going to have a giant effect. Or they could do what Warner Brothers did with Tenet, take it off the schedule and figure out, okay, let's wait until things are actually back to normal. Lord knows when that's going to be. And then we'll go ahead and get that going down there. Let's see right here. AMC is also implementing several safety guidelines upon its reopening, which would be electrostatic cleaning of seats and partnering with Clorox, details of which can be found at the link here. When those guidelines were announced back in June 18th, Adam Aron, the CEO, told a rival trade outlet that he didn't want to enforce the wearing of masks at AMC theaters in those areas of the U.S. which had eased such restrictions, but he didn't want to make a political issue of it. There was an immediate social media backlash, and by that, of course, it means the people that wouldn't be going to the theater anyway. So once again, stop listening to the damn Twitter mob, because it means literally nothing in the grand scheme of things. The immediate backlash from a bunch of trolls. And Aaron promptly changed course, creating a full circuit-wide safety protocol that all AMC guests are now required to wear face masks. However, if you dive into the details on that, guarantee you it'll be unless you're eating food sitting down. And then, of course, that kind of, again, luckily, hopefully will happen, because if you can just sit down and take your mask off when you're seated, that makes a lot more sense than having to watch a movie for an hour and a half, 2 hours with a mask on. Just not comfortable. Again, someone who has gone to mass and other places and had to wear a mask, I mean, trust me, it's not comfortable. I wouldn't want to watch a movie in that way either. So anyway, the second news story of the day has to do with, of course, a movie that I'm very, very fond of. Again, one of my favorites of 2019. I think it ended up being at my number 3 or number 4 spot, and that is Alita Battle Angel. Again, a very well done film based on a manga, and I think, again, a very good adaptation of said manga, at least based on the people that have read it. I myself have not. But this is a movie that for a long time now, there's been a huge movement of people using a hashtag called hashtag Alita Army. We got into some spats with some of those people because of claimings of ownership and things like that. But that's been pretty much put under the bridge, at least for the most part. And really, at the end of the day, we all have the same goal, which is that we would really like to see Alita get a sequel. We don't really want to see Alita get put on a Disney Plus as a series, because that means it's going to get less money, which means it's not going to get the effects that it had in the first film, which it kind of really needs to be able to work in any real form or fashion, unless they're willing to commit to spend lots of money on every episode on Disney Plus. But again, that still remains to be seen. Today was a day, though, decided upon by members of the Alita Army and other fans of Alita to start a social media campaign to blast the people that are involved. Again, obviously going after people like James Cameron, going after people, studios like 20th Century Studios and Disney, etc. Again, everyone associated that would actually be able to get this process going. And I've always been kind of mixed on this approach, because they've done this before, where they were able to actually raise money to get a billboard outside of the Oscars. It was with Billboard, and then at one point they also had a plane flying with a logo behind it about hashtag Alita Army, Alita sequel. Obviously, you've even had people like Rosa Salazar that has acknowledged the existence of it and has pushed for it as well. Started off with a trying to buy the Blu-rays and Steelbooks campaign, which again I think did pretty well, and has since then really grown into a pretty sizable movement as far as movements are concerned. Definitely more of I would say, a cult following than anything else, because it's still not a widespread love affair that exists for this movie. Now, is it enough that I think that you could find enough people to support the sequel to have it make money? I think so. I really honestly do, because not only do you have this hardcore group of fans that would be willing to go see the film multiple times to ensure that it's profitable, but then also we've gotten more and more people that have fallen in love with these characters and fallen in love with this world as well, who would also like to see a sequel. And then, of course, the generic normies who will like to see films regardless if there's CGI and action, etc. They'll go to see it regardless of that. But anyway, I wanted to give acknowledgement to that, because as of today, there is indeed a major campaign going on right now. Again, trying to go after people like Robert Rodriguez, James Cameron. James Cameron's really not going to be able to do a whole lot, though, because he is obviously very much obsessed with his stupid Avatar sequels from here until the end of time. So I just doubt he'll be able to do anything. I think he still owns the IP, and so basically he can just say, oh, yeah, if y'all want to make it, go right ahead and make it. But I don't think he'll nearly have as much involvement as he had in the first film, or as much passion as he did, because he was working on that first film, or was at least engaged with that first film for many years. But obviously now that Avatar has been given all the money in the world it needs from Disney, that is obviously where his focus is going to be. Robert Rodriguez obviously would be able to be brought back in if so needed. And so this article right here from smallscreen.co obviously is pointing out here, it's been picked up by some other major publications as well, some of the verified check marks on Twitter of some of the different people. So you've got Boss Stitch, you got, of course, the Alita Army account itself, saying right here, one of the reasons an Alita sequel is a must is that it would have some of the most creative minds working on it. So obviously talking there about the people that made the first film, they are definitely creative. I mean, the fact that they were able to, even with the uncanny valley of the character of Alita, be able to actually make it work, and Rosa Salazar's performance to be able to come through the CGI. Again, it's a very impressive feat. Obviously, is it perfect CGI? No, but as someone as a CGI stickler as I am, it's definitely very, very well done, to the point of, I think, them being really deserving of getting another chance to make another film. So here we have some more people that I've interacted with in the past. Alita Army, we got Alita sequel trending pretty quick. Let's keep it going. Rosa loves you. There was some issues, though, again, full transparency, where apparently Rosa Salazar was trying to essentially use the Alita Army for political purposes, like trying to get the people that she knew was on her side, that was hanging on her every word, to start also tweeting other things that were not associated with the film. I want to say there was some infighting going on there. As I said, like, I'm not a part of the real real core group of people that call themselves the Alita Army, right? And the ones that I was kind of going after earlier on because they were claiming ownership of a hashtag, which again is something that anyone can use and anyone can love and anyone can support. But anyway, here are some just more things from the various people that support it. And it is trending and it is doing relatively well for it. Now, do I think that this is the kind of campaign that's going to mean a sequel? No, but I think that these kind of campaigns do have an impact because, you know, studio heads can obviously be on Twitter, social media, have underlings on social media and say, hey, yeah, look, there's still a lot of people out there that are very much supportive of this product. Even these, even though it's been several months since there's been any mention of it whatsoever and there's no plans, we're in the midst of a shutdown. We need ideas. We need projects to try and push forward. This could be an easy one for us to be able to put out there and get some early support on. And obviously there is indeed a large group of people that would be willing to put not only their vocal support behind it, but also their money behind it as well. And so I would just like to add my voice to that. Again, obviously, as I said, have had issues with some of the people in the group in the past. I think that, for some of them, right, some of them in the leadership, they get a little bit, I think, a little too extreme and a little bit too obsessed with various things. Again, a little bit of ownership there. But as I said, at the end of the day, again, most of that has been water under the bridge up to this point, but it's all about trying to support the film, trying to say, hey, I think that this group of people should be able to come back together to make a sequel, and as long as they're willing to come back, which every single one of them really up to this point, except for Cameron, who's off in Avatar land, has been pretty much completely on board with doing, hey, why not go ahead and do it? Obviously, money is going to be a big factor because it's not cheap to get that kind of CG and get that kind of film being made, but hey, if you were willing to do it for a film like Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow, which was it was about as much of a box office flop as Alita was, because technically Alita was a box office flop, again, lost around $30 million or so. Both were able to make up those sales easily in the Blu-ray marketplace, in the, obviously, the other different revenue streams that studios have for these movies, whether it is various action figures or other different, objects like that, was able to make it enough. We already have the announcement that we're getting a Live, Die, Repeat sequel. It makes very little sense then why we wouldn't be able to get the same thing here. So, hey, we're here to support it. Alita sequel is going to have the support at least of the Odin's Movie Vlog channel and a lot of people associated with my channel. And of course, also you've got a very passionate group of people who call themselves the Alita Army and again use the hashtag, but also have their own account with it. But anyway, wanted to give that love and support to Alita, and hopefully you also can tweet out Alita sequel today, Alita Army, and tag the various people that are involved in the project and the various studios that would be the ones to be on the lookout. Obviously, Disney and 20th Century Studios, as it's now known, because gone is Fox, because that's a whole other discussion. But anyway, what are your thoughts about this? Do you want to see an Alita sequel? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, let me know if and how you will plan to support this campaign and any other campaign, really, to continue to show support for Alita. Again, I'm a proud owner of the 4K Steelbook myself, and also gave away several copies, not only that were sent to me, but also some that I bought myself to help try and get more people to be able to see the film. So that's how I've been trying to do it, but everyone has their own way. And also, secondly, with AMC, the first story, do you think that, the theaters are ever going to reopen at this point, or do you think it's going to be this constant, cat and mouse? One of them at some point is going to have to stick. Whether it's the studio saying, no matter how many theaters are open, this is when it's available, or whether it's the theaters saying, all right, we're open now, we're ready for your movies. One of them's going to have to do it sooner or later. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about this and everything I talked about in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash that like button, hit that subscribe. It helps out a lot. You're all amazing and beautiful people. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless. And now a huge shout out to all of my Patreon members. Albertus Magnus, Animation Commentator, Brian P., David Bobrizik, Dion, DivX, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, Harold Francis, the Honker Chonker Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toon, Jonathan Carney, Kenneth Camille, Lady T, Laura Story, who is the modern Major General, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mike Jackson, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, Orange at Reviews, Outpost Dyer, Out of Step with Reality, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Steve Glasker, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, Tina Bojan, The DJD Show, and Tina B. Thank you all for being my Patreon members, and a huge shout out to my Subscribe Star members, Stand For, John B., Perpetual Punster, Robert Revo, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, G2 Cool 99, Darkstar 57, Alex McCarthy, or J. Alex McCarthy Jr., US 888209 Fast, Dean Heiss, Harold Francis, J. Rod the Beer Guru, Nevadan G. Adams, and ZK Man, and Father Damian Cook. Thank you all so very much for being my Patreon and Subscribe Star members. Seriously, you are the wind beneath my wings. You help keep the lights on. You help support things like the giveaways for my $5 and up backers, and also allow me to do a lot of the extra stuff for the channel, including the exclusive OMB podcast that I do every couple of weeks with John, the Flick Pick of the Flick Pick channel. And yeah, thank you so much for your support. Don't want to really drag it out too long this month. You guys are amazing and beautiful people. If you want to have a name shout out, if you want to have access to giveaways, podcasts, any of that kind of stuff, check the links in the description for Patreon and Subscribe Star. You guys rock. Have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless.